They didn't laugh at him. That would have been easy. They stood close instead. Too close. Not angry. Not loud. Certain. Every face around him said the same thing without words. Show us. This wasn't about proving skill. It was about breaking silence. They expected him to react, to shift, to defend his place. That was the test. And everyone watching knew, if he answered the way they wanted, the night would end one way. If he didn't, it would end another. This moment wasn't loud. It was dangerous. Because once surrounded by men who want a response, silence is not weakness. Silence is a choice. And choices like this decide everything. No one spoke. The room didn't feel loud anymore. It felt tight. Breathing was the only sound left. Not calm breathing, measured breathing. The kind people use when they are ready. He stood near the center, not pushed there, not forced. The space closed around him naturally. Men stepped closer without saying a word. One from the left, two from behind, another from the front. Not aggressive, not careless, careful. Their eyes stayed on him. Not angry, not curious, waiting. He did not move. That was the first thing people noticed. Not strength, not confidence. Stillness. The room was not large, but it felt smaller now. Walls mattered less than bodies. Light mattered less than distance. Shoes stopped scraping. No one adjusted their stance anymore. The circle finished forming. He was surrounded. They were not beginners. You could tell by how little they showed. No raised fists. No dramatic posture. Hands loose. Weight balanced. Faces relaxed. They were comfortable here. This was their environment. Someone swallowed. It sounded loud. Another man shifted his foot slightly, then froze when he realized he had moved first. No one wanted to be the one who broke the moment. Every eye returned to him. He didn't look back at each person. He didn't scan the room. His gaze stayed calm, forward, unchallenging, almost uninterested. That made the room uneasy. A man near the front finally spoke. Not loudly, not sharply, casual. So, we've heard a lot about you. Not an insult, not praise. Worse, an invitation. Another voice followed quickly, filling the space before silence could return. People say you're different. No accusation, no challenge, just expectation. The kind that demands proof without asking. The room leaned in, not physically, mentally. Everyone knew what this moment meant. If he reacted, they would respond. If he struck, they would surround. If he stepped back, the story would end. This was not about fighting. It was about position, status, control. All eyes locked onto him again. Waiting. He did nothing. At first, it felt like hesitation. 1 second passed. Then another. Someone smiled nervously. It faded when nothing happened. No reply. No posture change. No preparation. Just quiet. The silence stretched. It began to feel uncomfortable. Not for him. For them. Breathing grew uneven around the circle. One man exhaled too sharply. Another rolled his shoulders, unsure why he felt tense. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy. It pressed on the room. He stood exactly as before. No tension in his face. No tension in his hands. Not relaxed. Not ready. Present. The circle started to feel unsure of itself. Someone expected something to happen by now. Something loud. Something clear. Nothing came. And slowly, without a signal, without a word, the room began to shift. The silence stayed. It did not rush away. It did not soften. It stayed where it was, and made everyone aware of it. A man near the edge of the circle shifted his weight. Left foot to right. Right foot back again. He stopped when he realized he was the only one moving. That small movement felt loud. Another man adjusted his hands, then let them fall again. He wasn't preparing. He was unsure. The room noticed. The circle was still there, but it no longer felt solid. It felt held together by expectation alone. He remained unchanged. His breathing stayed slow, even, yet no tension in his jaw, no tightness in his shoulders. He did not stare anyone down. He did not lower his eyes. He simply existed where he was. That made the waiting harder. The man who had spoken first expected a response by now. A word, a look, anything that confirmed the balance. He got nothing. Another second passed, then another. Time stretched in a strange way, not long enough to end, not short enough to ignore. The silence began to feel deliberate. People started to wonder if it was. Someone cleared their throat. It echoed more than it should have. A few men glanced at each other, quickly, then back to him. They were looking for permission to act, or permission to stop. Neither came. The air felt warmer, or maybe heavier. He did not wipe his hands, did not shift his feet, did not prepare for anything. That was the problem. This moment had rules. Everyone knew them. Silence was not one of them. A man near the front leaned forward slightly, not aggressively, testing. He waited for a reaction. None came. The man straightened again, unsure why he had moved at all. The silence pressed harder now. It stopped being neutral. It began to feel intentional. Not fear, not hesitation. Choice. The room felt that change before anyone understood it. Someone laughed softly, under their breath. A nervous sound. It died immediately. No one joined. The laughter felt wrong here. Eyes dropped, then lifted again. The circle still existed, but confidence no longer filled it. This wasn't the stillness of weakness. It wasn't calm surrender. It was refusal. Refusal to perform. Refusal to react. Refusal to give them the moment they wanted. The longer it continued, the clearer it became. This silence was not passive. It was control without movement. A man on the right side took a small step back, barely noticeable. No one called it out. Another man adjusted his stance, not forward, but sideways, creating space without admitting it. The shape of the circle began to loosen. No signal was given. No command was spoken. But something had changed. The pressure they had brought into the room was no longer aimed at him. It had turned inward. Men became aware of themselves again. Their breathing, their posture, their uncertainty. The silence did not break. It deepened, and the room waited to see who would lose it first. The silence had weight now, not the kind that fades, the kind that settles. A man near the front finally moved again. This time, it wasn't accidental. He stepped forward half a step, not enough to attack, just enough to force a response. Every eye snapped to him. This was the moment they were waiting for. If something was going to happen, it would happen now. The man held his position, shoulders loose, chin slightly raised, confident, expecting. The room held its breath. He did not move, not even a fraction. No tightening, no readiness, nothing. The half step hung in the air like a question with no answer. The man's confidence wavered, not visibly, internally. He stayed where he was for a second, longer than planned. That second mattered. He had expected resistance or reaction. Instead, he felt exposed. He shifted his weight back, just a little, not retreating, correcting. The room saw it. That was the first crack. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real. Another man on the left side adjusted his feet. He angled away instead of in. The circle lost its clean shape. Not broken yet, but uneven. Breathing around the room changed. Quicker, less controlled. People began to feel watched instead of watching. He remained the same. Still, balanced, unmoved. The silence now belonged to him, not because he demanded it, because no one else knew what to do with it. A man at the back glanced toward the exit. Just a glance. It said enough. The idea of control was slipping, not taken, released. Another fighter crossed his arms, then uncrossed them. The movement had no purpose. Uncertainty was showing. This was no longer a test of him. It was a test of them. Who would push further? Who would admit the moment had passed? No one wanted to be the one who escalated now. Violence felt wrong here. Too loud. Too obvious. The silence had already won something. The man who had spoken first shifted his stance. His voice, when he tried to speak again, didn't come out. He stopped himself. Words felt unnecessary and dangerous. The room felt different now, less sharp, less certain. Not safe, just changed. The circle no longer closed in. It hovered, waiting for a signal that never came. And slowly, without agreement, without discussion, the pressure began to dissolve. The room no longer felt tight, not open, just less controlled. The circle was still there, but it had lost its purpose. No one was pushing it anymore. A man near the edge took a full step back this time. Not sudden, not embarrassed. Casual. No one stopped him. That mattered. Another man mirrored the movement without realizing it. Space appeared where there had been none. The silence changed again. Before, it had been pressure. Now, it was clarity. Everyone understood something without saying it. This moment was over. No one had won it the way they expected. No one had lost it the way they feared. He remained still for a moment longer, not because he needed to, because he could. His presence no longer felt surrounded. It felt centered. The man who had stepped forward earlier avoided his eyes now. Not in shame, in recognition. There was nothing left to test. The room adjusted itself around that truth. People relaxed their shoulders. Breathing slowed. Someone scratched their jaw, breaking the tension without consequence. Life resumed in small ways. The circle opened, without announcement. Paths appeared naturally. No one blocked them. He turned slightly, not to leave, not to exit the room. Just enough to show the moment no longer required attention. No one followed. No one challenged. The room accepted it. What had been expected did not happen. What had happened could not be undone. Men who moments earlier felt certain now felt quiet. Not defeated, just aware. Aware that something had passed between them without contact. The silence began to fade on its own. Not shattered, released. Conversation did not restart immediately. People needed time to place the moment somewhere safe in their minds. He stood there, unchanged, until the room no longer needed him to. Then, without ceremony, he moved. Not fast, not slow, normal. And that was the final disruption. Movement returned to the room slowly, not all at once. One sound at a time. A chair scraped lightly against the floor. Someone adjusted their jacket. Another man exhaled and didn't try to hide it. No one looked at him directly anymore. Not out of fear, out of understanding. The kind that doesn't need eye contact. A few men stood where they were, unsure what to do next. They had prepared for conflict. They had not prepared for restraint. That confusion stayed with them. The man who had first spoken took a step sideways, then another. He didn't leave. He just removed himself from the center. That mattered more. Others followed in small ways, leaning against walls, turning their bodies slightly away. The room rearranged itself around what had happened. No one joked about it. No one laughed it off. That would have been disrespectful. Not to him, to the moment. He did not claim space. Space gave itself back. The tension that had filled the room earlier did not vanish. It settled. It became something quieter. Respect doesn't announce itself. It appears in behavior. Voice lowered. Gesturas softened. Men who had expected noise now spoke carefully, if at all. He moved through the room without resistance. No one blocked him. No one followed too closely. The path stayed clear, not because he demanded it, because no one felt right standing in the way. This was not victory. There was no celebration, just recognition, the kind that stays unspoken. Later, People talked about that night, not loudly, not all at once. In pieces. Some said nothing happened. Others said something did. No one agreed on the details. They never do. What they agreed on was the feeling, the moment when the room changed. The moment no one could point to. They remembered the silence more than anything else. How long it lasted, how heavy it felt, how uncomfortable it became. Some tried to describe it as confidence. Others called it control. None of the words fit. What stayed with them was simpler. He had been surrounded, and nothing happened. Not because it couldn't, because it didn't need to. After that, no one invited him to prove himself again. Not directly, not indirectly. The questions stopped. The testing looks disappeared. People adjusted around him before he ever entered a room. Space was left without discussion. Conversations changed tone without instruction. No one announced why. They didn't need to. The silence had already done the work. It had shown who needed noise and who didn't. And long after the room emptied, long after the circle broke, the memory remained. Not of movement, not of force, but of the moment when everyone waited and nothing broke.